Hi everybody, it's Dandruff with your bonus cartridge for Friday, September 21st, 2018. How y'all doing today? We had a lot of requests for this video, so yay, let's give the people what they want. So this is the Verge video that was going around last week that I didn't know about until I think it was Monday. Oh boy, okay, so I haven't ever done something like this before, but we're going to consider this fair use because I'm going to be actually having to edit this. This actually isn't here. I was trying to cheat and have this be put here before I did any sort of editing, so it would be a lot easier, but the computer can't handle it, so yay, I need a better laptop. Alright, so with no further ado, we are going to get into this, and yeah. Oh wow, what if you aren't aware, this is a train wreck about to happen. So let's do it. Let's get to it. So I have this playing on VLC on the laptop. I have another monitor over here so that way I can see what I'm doing, and that's about it. I've got a keyboard in front of me, and all I'm going to do is pause this when I need to. So yeah, let's go.
So a few years ago, TC, or Managing Editor, built a gaming desktop, but it's kind of out of date, and it's definitely not going to hold up for Battlefield 5. So let's build a new one.
So far, so good.
You can build a gaming desktop for around $1,000, but I want to go all out, so I spent around $2,000.
Okay, already I have to pause this because upon looking at the parts that he has and doing my own calculations, estimations, and whatnot, it's not $2,000. It's about $1,200 to $1,400, which is pretty far off from $2,000. But okay, well, maybe he doesn't know where to shop and overspent a little bit. Maybe he's talking Canadian. I don't know. We'll have to see.
A PC like this is going to be able to play most games at ultra settings. So what do you need to build a desktop? Well, of course, first you need a table.
Now, again, he's been criticized for this the whole time. Like, I've heard a criticism about we need a table. Okay, well, we also don't forget we need oxygen to breathe. We need food in our belly so that we have the energy to actually think. We need the knowledge to think to do this. We also need sunlight. Sunlight, don't forget love. We could all use a little bit more love in our life. No, I think the whole table thing has been a little bit overplayed. He does mention a metal table, which don't ever build computers on a metal table. Wood is perfect. Glass is actually okay too. If you do it on glass, you might scratch up your glass, so I don't recommend glass for that reason, but assembling computers on a glass table would be fine. It's not going to conduct electricity. Metal absolutely would. You do not want to do it on a metal table. Don't do it. Even if, like he says, with an insulated padding, don't do it.
Preferably not metal. If it's going to be metal, have an anti-static working surface layered on top of it. A thermal paste applicator.
You don't need a thermal paste applicator. You don't need a thermal paste applicator. You can do a thermal paste application where you spread it across the heat spreader, but you don't necessarily need to. That's kind of optional. Not really saying it's bad, but
an Allen wrench.
Now that's an interesting choice. Okay, I was pausing this. An Allen wrench. That is an interesting choice. I can think of one scenario where I've ever needed an Allen wrench my whole time building computers, and that is to fix the mouse that I currently use because it uses hex screws to put together, and basically I just need to take two mice, combine them, and that's how I'm going to fix them. But that's you shouldn't do that. I really should send it back and get an RMA, basically let the company take care of it. But whatever, I'm weird. I'd rather just do it myself. You don't need an Allen key. You do not need an Allen key.
Some tweezers to tighten up the wires.
Tweezers. Okay. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. He says tweezers. I think he means zip ties. They're clearly zip ties. Yeah, I think he just misspoke. I've misspoken plenty on this show. I'm going to give him a pass. I'm going to be really, really nice to him. There's some parts where I'm not going to be nice to him because there's misspeaking and then there's outright lying and when you don't know what you're talking about. So we're going to continue on.
A Swiss Army knife, which hopefully has a Phillips head screwdriver in it.
A Swiss Army knife with hopefully a Phillips head screwdriver. You need a Phillips head screwdriver, not a Swiss Army knife. A Swiss Army knife, yeah, I guess. I use a Swiss Army knife, but I use it as a screwdriver. I use it more as a straight head screwdriver than anything, but I don't recommend that. I recommend just getting a Phillips head screwdriver or a straight head screwdriver. I don't...
And last but not least, an anti-static bracelet.
Now, this is a lie. This is an outright lie. I don't know whoever thought of this. This is an outright lie. Or it's just a troll, because this is not an anti-static band. This is one of those just, you know, we care bands. They're one of those things you put on your wrist for a statement or to support something. Anti-static bands usually have an attachment, and they run to a clip that you clip onto something metal, so that way you can discharge things into the ground. That is not doing anybody any good. So right there, that I calling him out, that's bullshit.
Just
that's
to protect
just straight
you
bullshit.
And the parts. These are the parts you're going to need, but more importantly, before we get there, we need to understand what these parts are doing and how they interact with one another. To better understand the parts that make up a desktop, let's try to understand them individually. The processor is like the computer's brain, a base of calculation.
Now, he says it's like the brain, but then at some other point he says it's like the heart, and you should just make up your mind, and I don't think you should compare it to the body. I think you should compare it to a car.
Calculations that control everything the computer does. The motherboard is like the foundation, serving as a main structure.
He compares one to a heart, and then another to a foundation. People aren't houses.
For all of their parts to be added to. It also allows the other parts to communicate with one another, which also makes it kind of like a nervous system.
No, not like a nervous system, like a skeletal system. It's the structure. No, and is it either a person or is it a house? Because it's either the framework or it's the skeleton. It's not the nervous system. No.
Graphics cards are responsible for rendering and processing visuals into what you see on screen.
Yes.
Our PC's power supply is, of course, channeling electricity, in that it adjusts and provides the right amount of energy to keep it running. Last but not least, RAM, or random access memory, and your hard drive are good examples of short-term and long-term memory.
No. RAM is memory. Drives are storage. Okay, you can either have... Oh, no. Now, you can make storage on your RAM. You can actually turn that into a RAM disk if you want, but as soon as you turn your computer off, it just disappears, and you can actually just kind of make it go poof and go away. So I have gone on tirades about the difference between memory and storage. RAM is not even short-term storage. It's not storage I mean, if you're going to use it as short-term storage, like I was saying, making a RAM disk, you're doing that for extreme purposes. You're doing that for extreme reasons. You're not doing that for, like, what I would consider short-term storage. I would consider an SSD short-term storage. You would put it on, you would render things to an SSD, and then you would dump it onto a hard drive for long-term, and then delete it off the SSD, because usually SSDs have a higher price per gigabyte. Higher price per gigabyte. Period. I should have changed my inflection there.
Respectively. If you want to better understand what kind of computer to build, then first figure out what you want to use it for.
I agree with that completely. Okay, now I'm gonna be nice to him, but there are some things that he is actually on board with, where if you are going to build a computer, think about what it's going to do first. Is this going to be a home theater computer, an HTPC? Because if it's going to be that, well, then just get yourself the tiniest processor, tiniest dual core that you can, with a graphics processor on it, and then throw that into a computer with like 4 gigs of RAM, tiny power supply, tiny case, tiny everything, and boom, you have a full Windows TV if you want. That's how my TV is actually set up. My TV runs Windows, and that's the way I like it. I can browse the internet on my TV, I can watch a movie, I can do whatever I want. It even runs Factorio. So, like, You know, I can even run Minecraft if I want. I can run a couple of games. It's got an Intel i3 4160, so it's Intel 4600 graphics. So it's not great, but it can do it.
A gamer might care more about a graphics card than, say, a video editor, who might want extra RAM to assist with editing large files.
That's true.
If you're building a budget build for video streaming, say under $1,000, you want to focus on parts, like a Core i5 or Core i3 processor, that require less energy.
Yeah.
They'll be less powerful, but then you'll be able to scale back the cost of several other parts. And if you need help choosing the right parts for your build, there are sites like PCPartPicker.com that help show presets for which parts fit together, which sort of part conflicts you might have, and where to find deals on new parts. We have a lot of boxes and a lot of PC parts, so it's best if you unbox them, isolate the parts that you really need, place items into the case, and make sure that they all fit, and then start working. And now we're really going to start building by adding the motherboard in.
Okay, what you really want to do is to test all of your components outside of the box before you put them into the machine. You do want to test fit to make sure everything goes in, but you generally want to make sure you've done that before you've bought your components. Most cases will tell you if it supports a 240mm radiator, a 360mm radiator. If they only support 120s, it'll tell you how many drives it's supposed to fit. These things can vary a little bit. I have a Cooler Master Elite 110 that I actually have 5 drives in, when the max that you should get into it is 4. You know, you figure out ways, you know, but so I don't know. We'll get into some other things. I don't like his methodology for building a computer at all. And you'll see some stuff that he does that's just like, I don't know. It's
about installing motherboards. They're really delicate. You should be really careful with them. And screw in with confidence, but also don't screw in too hard, otherwise you could crack the board. I chose Asus's Z370 motherboard for 2 main reasons. One, it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and also it has support for NVMe SSDs, meaning you can get really fast SSDs that are really easy to install. Pay close attention to the brace that goes at the back of the computer. You always have to make sure that you really hammer it in, because there's no screw. It really just has to go outside of the case and clasp onto the frame.
You don't have to hammer it in. It just snaps in. If you push in at all 4 points, and if you start pushing and the metal starts bending, stop. Okay? If it's not gone in, realign it, and then it'll just go in. It's not that hard. You don't have to hammer it. Be gentle.
And this is very important, because otherwise you can't align the motherboard correctly with the holes. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws.
That's a little off, but I don't know what he's talking about.
So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose Corsair's 16GB Vengeance LED RAM for 2 main reasons. One, it has LEDs.
I support this decision.
And we do like lights in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty fast RAM. It's 2666 megahertz.
That is not fast RAM. No, not by any means.
I believe. So it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports that speed, which is most important.
Yes, you should check to see if your motherboard supports a particular speed of RAM. 2666 2666 ain't shit.
Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with the middle of the strip, not with the end, and just lining that up.
No. Put it in the end first. It's a lot easier to cradle the RAM into the end of the socket first, and then you want to push down on both ends until you hear a click. Also, if you note, he does not check his motherboard manual to see where the RAM should be placed at all before placing it. It's really, you should not just throw it in any slot. There is a particular place where it should be put first. And from the looks of it, it really should be in the second. I don't know actually this motherboard, but generally it's the slot next to the first slot, so it's usually the second slot and then the fourth slot. I don't know what he's doing. Or it's usually the first slot and the third slot. I don't know what he's doing. He needs to read his motherboard manual. That's what's going to tell you a lot about computer building.
Up with the logo. So once you hear that solid clasp and you don't see the gold connectors on the side anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install the hard drive.
It's not a hard drive, it's an SSD. an SSD stands for solid state drive, not hard drive. A hard drive is HDD. And also, that drive is not. That's a SATA drive. I looked up Kingston stuff, and apparently they do have NVMe SATA drives, but that is $100 drive. That is not a. I don't know if I said hard drive there. If I did say hard drive, I did not mean they do have solid state NVMe. They do have SATA solid state NVMe drives, but that particular drive, if you go to the original video and you zoom in and you actually look at it, it's got 2 notches in it, which means it's a B key M.2. Therefore, it's a SATA drive, not a PCIe drive. It could be a PCIe drive with those 2 slots, but I don't know of one that Kingston makes that's like that. I have a PCIe NAND flash SSD. I know it's PCI. Everything I have says it's PCI, considering the speed I get out of it. But it's not, and it might not be NVMe. I don't know if it is or not. I have to go look at it. I have a Plex Tor. Actually, no, because it'd be NAND flash. It wouldn't be NVMe. So, yeah. I don't know why Kingston is putting NVMe instead of NAND flash on their SSD, unless I'm completely off by that. If I am, please let me know in the comments section. But that is a $100 drive. Again, I don't understand where the cost $2,000 came from for this machine. I think it's about $1,400.
In this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid-state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard without having to worry about extra wires or putting it in a separate part of the case.
M.2 really is great because you don't have to worry about wires at all.
This is from Kingston, and it's 480 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and swap it out, right. And it's only held down by 1 screw and the latch, so it's really simple and really straightforward. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to a hard drive. You want files to write quickly, and you want games to load quickly, so...
No. First of all, stop calling it a hard drive, and second of all, it's only important for load times. Write times? What is he even talking about, write times for a game? As far as I know, a SATA 1 connection would be fine for write times for a video game. It's not... No.
That's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked.
Good brand.
And so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with the back end bracket of your PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what other parts you're going to put in the system.
No.
I'm just going to pick the top.
No. Which lane you choose does not depend on what other parts you are going to use in the system. Read your motherboard manual, and it will tell you which lane is lane 0. That's because the lanes start with 0, as computers should. So you put your graphics card in lane 0. If you have a second graphics card, you put it in lane 1. Okay? If you have a third graphics card, you put it in lane 2. Guess what? Usually they're stacked 0, 1, or they're stacked 0, 2, 1. Oh, because not a lot of people run SLI, even less people run Crossfire, and in my own personal experience and recommendation, don't run multiple graphics cards. Just get the single best card that you can and run with it. Run with it for as long as you can. If you have the money to throw at it and you want to get 2 graphics cards, just take that amount of money and spend it on one. Trust me. Really, you can always use the 1 card that you have. You can't always use the 2 cards that you have.
Top one because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice.
Again, I support that decision. If you don't want to cover your SSD, actually, if you don't want to, if you have the option to not cover the SSD, don't cover it if you want to see it. But if it says put it in slot, it says put it in slot 0, then put it in slot 0, even if it's covering the SSD. Believe it or not, the graphics card blowing air down will blow it onto the SSD and cool it.
Click down. Take your remaining brackets and just put them in the spots that you haven't used.
Yes, do this because
you don't have to screw these in. They get bolted down.
It'll block dust. It'll block debris.
And your
it'll
GPU's
block.
Installed.
If you have a problem with bugs.
I chose Corsair's 850 watt power supply because I need enough headroom for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to upgrade it again.
It'll keep kids.
So all you have to do is take the brick and make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so that the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
That is an outright lie. I don't know what he's talking about. That's a lie. That is dangerous information that he just said there. He just said that the pads on the case are for insulating the power supply from the other components so it doesn't shock them. I kind of want to go back and watch that again. Yeah, let's go back and go over that again. Oops. Oh no.
So a few years ago, TCL used Corsair's 16 gigabytes to load quickly, so that's why it's best if you choose, and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. I don't want to have to upgrade it again. So all you have to do is take the brick
sorry about that.
and make sure that you align it with these little insulating pads so that the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system.
So the power supply doesn't short circuit and come into the rest of the system. No, that's just not how that works. Those pads are there to absorb vibration from the fan spinning in the power supply. Okay, that's what those pads are for. They're not for anything else. If you were to, you have to screw the power supply into through those pads. Wouldn't that mean that electricity would transfer through those screws? That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. The power supply doesn't create a field of electricity around it. It only sends electricity through the cables that are in it. And for that particular power supply, it's fully modular. It'll only provide power through the cables you plug into it. So no. Don't ever open a power supply, by the way. Do not ever stick anything into a power supply. There are no serviceable components inside of a power supply. If you ever have the idea, hey, let's open the power supply to try to fix it, stop doing what you're doing. You could kill somebody. I'm not joking. Do not open a power supply. It's very, very dangerous. Okay? And yes, as somebody had mentioned in the video too, yeah, I am aware of that. The new Macintosh does have an exposed power supply inside of it. Yeah, I watched that Linus video too. I tend to watch a lot of tech stuff. Go check out Level 1 Techs and Gamers Nexus if you want to get a little bit more deep into it. Also, OC3D is pretty good. I like Hardware Unboxed. I like Linus Tech Tips. I like Jay's 2 Cents. There's a couple I don't like, but I'm not going to name them.
So just take it in, slide it in nice and easy.
He puts his power supply in, fan down, technically. I don't know why he would do that. The fan the other way would actually guarantee
now you just take the required screws,
but that's not a cardinal sin. That's not terrible.
So next step, we're going to install the CPU core. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case, and we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later.
Now that's what I have a problem with. We're going to install the processor a little bit later. I really have a feeling he did this all to try to... he's thinking about this from a video standpoint, whereas, okay, we get it all, we compile all the components together, and then insert the brain. That's not how this works, buddy. You could have installed the processor a long time ago. In fact, I usually put the processor in the board while it's still in the box. And then I take the board out of the box board out of the anti-static bag, put it back into cardboard box, put processor into board, then board into case. After IO shield, obviously. I don't know why he has waited so long to put it in, because, well, you'll see.
Always be sure to try to place it in the system first before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot of space.
And yes, oh yeah, no. Radiators and pumps and tubes take up a lot of space in the system, believe it or not, compared to an air cooler. Oh yeah, they do. So, again, I question his methods of why he's done this.
But in this case, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly, and we're gonna start screwing it in. And so there's nothing special about this screwing in process. They're just really long screws because they go through the entire frame of the cooler.
Oh, I didn't know this part. I didn't pay attention to this part before because I have seen this video before. No. Do not ever put... Oh no, do not, oh no. Those screws are meant to go through a fan first, okay? It's okay if you go into the fin a little bit with the screw because the screws are a little bit longer than the fin. You may push the fin down a little bit. But if you're going through the entirety of the radiator fins, you are doing something wrong. No, those screws are long because they're supposed to go through fans first and then attach to the radiator. Oh, geez, he's ruining his radiator. This is somebody ruining their radiator right here. That's what that is.
Next up, cables.
Bye, radiator.
Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of Velcro cables.
In the comments.
It's kind of daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are going to fit. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard with a 24-pin cable. We're just matching that cable from the motherboard, threading it through the back, and attaching the 24-pin header to the power supply so that we can have one of the connections complete.
By the way, if you notice that the power supply it's got a 20-pin and a 4-pin, and then on the other side, it's got like a 16-pin and a 10-pin. That's normal, that's fine. That threw me off a little bit at first when I had a fully modular power supply. It's designed that way so you can only plug it in one way, that you can't plug it in. It's the way you can't reverse it. So that's fine, it's okay. And like, there are some power supplies where it's stacked too, so you'll have like 16 pins and then 10 pins on top of each other instead of next to each other. So, or 14 pins and 10 pins. Whatever. I don't know how to pins.
The next few additions will be for the GPU, for any specific ports that the case has, for any lighting that the case has, the CPU cooler, anything else really. We're installing the CPU.
See, that's where it was like we did this entire video so I could get a shot of me holding this Core i7
heart of the computer, or
he's called it the
brain, depending on how you look at it.
There you go.
So to do this, we're just going to remove
unnecessarily.
The plastic covering that they put on the motherboard. We're just going to take this little plastic part out. We'll just toss that out of here.
No! No! Don't! No! No! No. That got me angry right there, because first of all, you never need to touch that cover. You don't need to touch that cover. It'll pop itself off, believe it or not. It'll actually pop itself off. Don't remove the cover manually. You don't have to remove the cover manually. Also, take the cover and place it inside your motherboard box, and then place that motherboard box onto a shelf, because you need that box later just in case something goes wrong. And guess what? Maybe you want to sell the motherboard in the future. And guess what you need when you want to sell the motherboard? Motherfucking socket cover, okay? So don't toss it over your shoulder. Holy crap. Oh god. So the other thing is too that I want to what you're supposed to do is not remove the cover. It even says to not remove the cover on the cover, by the way. He is not reading the goddamn thing. Open up the CPU socket. It'll expose the LGA socket, whether or not it's Threadripper, whether or not it's your X299 platform, whether or not it's your LGA 1151 Intel consumer platform. It doesn't matter. It opens up the same way. You place the CPU in the socket. Threadripper's a little bit different. You place the CPU in the socket. You close the you close the thing. If it's X299, you put down the first retention arm, and then you put down the other retention arm. The cover will pop off. If it's 1151, you just have one retention arm that you worry about, and the cover will again pop off. Do not remove the cover manually. Don't do that. I've done this 100 times. Maybe I'm exaggerating there, but I've done it dozens of times. You don't need to remove the cover manually.
And now we have an exposed CPU holder, or rather slot.
which you should have for the least amount of time possible, by the way. You should just open it up, CPU. Okay? Open it up, CPU. Okay? A PGA socket for Intel or for AMD is a little bit different because that you just basically want to keep the processor inside of its little caddy for as long as possible. PGA socket you can rub your hand against it. It's fine. You can run your finger around it. It's absolutely fine. Even with the socket open with the little arm up, you can run your hand around it. It's fine. Just don't bend the pins on the processor.
On the motherboard. And we're going to use the CPU applicator. This is a special little part that not everyone may get, but this motherboard that we got from ASUS definitely does have. It's called a CPU installation tool. It makes it really useful if you want to install.
This is completely unnecessary.
Core i7
All you gotta do.
Yeah. We've got one, and it's an 8th generation chip, and it's ready to go. And it.
Okay. Oh yeah, we've got a hexa-core Intel i7. I've had a hexa-core i7 for the last 3 years, buddy. Like, there's nothing fancy about having a hexa-core Intel processor. Ooh. And if it's like, he kind of makes it sound like having the caddy for the processor makes it easier to install an i7. No, you can use it on a Celeron. You can use it on any LGA 1150 socket. In fact, I wouldn't use one. You just grab it. It's a zero force insertion socket. It just sits in it. Then you put down the cover. You put down the metal retention cover. It'll pop off the plastic cover, and you're good.
It supports overclocking. So what having this little installer does for you is it's basically a brace that you can apply right to the CPU and light it up with the triangles that you'll see on the bottom left corners. And this will make it easier for us to apply it to the motherboard and then apply thermal paste and then apply a CPU cooler on top.
It's easy to do this.
And we're just going to carefully lean it down into the system
but
and
if
make sure that everything lines up.
I guess you need it.
And we're going to clasp down on it.
If you need it, I'm not going to knock you for using it, but it is fairly simple to do what he's done.
So we're about to apply.
And if you also notice too how the camera was shooting in like real tight into this real small area, I don't know why he's done this. He shot this camera guy. Like more power to the camera guy because damn that guy earned his money that day.
Thermal paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of thermal paste already neatly applied.
Yes, it does, and it's all you need.
In a circle around it, but it's usually not enough. It's good, essentially PC building practice to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU.
No.
The final portion.
No. And do you see that crap? He's got like 7 dots. He's got half a tube of freaking thermal paste on there. That shit ain't cheap, first of all. You don't need that. He's gonna, too much thermal paste isn't really a terrible thing, because more than likely it's just gonna do nothing. You're just gonna waste it. But in certain instances, it can lead to thermal buildup and actually work against you, which is... And build up heat, which is supposed to dissipate heat from the heat spreader to the cold plate or to the heat sink, the air cooled heat sink. Oh geez, no. If your aftermarket cooler, which is already expensive in and of its own right, has thermal paste applied, don't apply anymore. Use the thermal paste that's on there unless you prefer to have your own for some reason. There's some like you're just like I use IC5 or I forget exactly what the one I have is. Arctic Silver 5. I use Arctic Silver 5 and I don't use anything else. Like, okay, fine, you use Arctic Silver 5 all the time. You go and you do that. But if I ever get a cooler, like whenever where's my H100? It's over there. When I've bought 2 H100Is in my time, and every time I just stick it right on because it's got perfectly applied thermal paste. Anytime I've got to do it for anybody else, I just do it that way. Oh, geez, don't do this.
To add the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. So you're going to see that there are 4 brackets, or rather like screws.
And again,
with
that's
brackets
such a...
right
can't
here.
see anything.
And they're going to keep the cooler raised off the processor, but it's also going to be close
other than
to
the gobs of
physically
thermal
come in
paste
contact
everywhere.
with it. Like
Can't
basically
see anything because he should have done this before he put everything in.
Like this, and just screw them on.
This is terrible. You can't see him doing anything.
So now that our internals are done, we're going to put all the panels back on, which is the top glass, side glass, front glass, and of course the back panel where all of this fun stuff is happening.
Okay.
So we fully built the PC, everything's put together, And we got to the post screen. So what's next? Well, you need a USB flash drive with your Windows installation media on it, and of course a license key. So I plugged that up, installed Windows in a couple of minutes, installed a bunch of drivers, and now we have a fully functioning gaming PC ready to run some games. Right now I've got Arma 3 running.
It's gonna take you about 30 minutes in order to 30 to 45 minutes in order to get it from I built this, it's posted, to playing games, or at least to the point where you're installing drivers to play games. It's not just like, well, we got it posted, Windows is in, now we're good. Like, it takes a little bit of time. There's a bunch of stuff that they're not showing. Luckily, the machine only has one drive, so it's only going to use that one drive. That part shouldn't be that complicated. I prefer to have more than one drive in any machine that I build, but hey, if you want an entry-level computer, sure, that's fine. That's fine.
Running at maximum settings, native resolution, which is 1080p HD, and it's running pretty smoothly. Like, I'm averaging 70 and 80 FPS, and this is normally like a very intensive game to run. And
Arma 3 is the worst game to run, to benchmark, because it's first of all very CPU bound, and it just runs like crap anyway, because the engine's more than 10 years old. Why aren't you benching modern day games like PUBG, like Fortnite, like, I don't know, freaking Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey's coming out soon. Something this year. Why aren't you benchmarking something that's come out this year? I mean, I guess Arma will push it a little bit on both the CPU and the GPU, and I guess they're showing off the overall machine, not just the graphics card. But still, it's like, we also don't know. I'm not sure if that's a monitor or a TV. I do know it's curved, and I think it's Samsung. But if you're only at 60 hertz at 1080p. You don't need a 1080. You don't need a hexa-core processor. You don't need that crap. What? No. Why?
It's still doing a pretty good job. So right now I'm playing League of Legends. It's one of my favorite games.
Yeah, League of Legends, that's graphics intensive.
I'm actually playing against a bot, and I'm distracted, so I'm not actually doing so well. But otherwise, like, this is pretty much what you would see me do on a gaming computer. Test stuff out, and hopefully have really high frame rates like I am right now.
This is what we would see you do, get owned by bots.
FPS, and that's only because I've actually locked the game to that frame rate, because I can get around 300 FPS playing League on maximum settings, which is a little bit absurd, and you don't really need that, so I've locked it. Building a gaming desktop
we don't know
has
what
been
the
a great
refresh rate of the monitor
I'm able
is,
to
though,
max
anyway,
out a lot of my favorite titles, and I'll be able to play a lot of upcoming titles like Battlefield 5 and Cyberpunk 2077 without worrying too much about the parts I have. When ray tracing GPUs come out, for example, I'll be able to upgrade without having to buy a completely new system.
You shouldn't upgrade from a 1080 to anything RTX. No, do not do that. If you're gonna buy a 1080 now to upgrade to RTX later, just freaking wait. Just wait. Do not, or just buy just don't buy a graphics card. Don't buy the 1080. Just wait. You can wait. It's like a couple of weeks before they're gonna be available again. Like, really, don't. No.
And if I have a problem down the line, I can always just swap out a part and have it serviced rather than losing my whole computer. And of course now we also have a computer to test.
Wait. If you only have the one machine and you swap out a single part, you're gonna lose you're gonna lose most of the machine. Okay? If you take out the RAM, you can't use the machine. If you take out the processor, you can't use the machine. If you take out the graphics card, you can still use the machine, but you can't game on the damn thing.
Test and benchmark games here at The Verge.
I think we're done, and I'm
Thanks
sad
for watching.
now.
Let me know if you've built a computer before yourself, or how you would spend $2,000 on your own build.
Not like that. That's for damn sure. Okay, I think this has only got like a couple of seconds left. Okay, yeah, we're just done with it because I can't stand this anymore. Because this is getting painful. Okay, I would not spend $2,000 like that. First of all, okay, I don't Did it even say what i7 that was? Was that an 8086? Was that an 8700? I mean, the 8086 is the only thing that's going to beat the AMD 2700X in gaming right now. The 2700X is better than the 8700 in most benchmarks. Yes, I know there's a couple that the 8700K does beat. But for the most part, the 2700X is going to be a better processor overall because you got 2 extra cores. I don't think it clocks to a higher speed, but you still have 2 freaking extra cores, and it's $100 cheaper. So also the motherboard that you're going to get is cheaper because it's a PGA socket and not an LGA socket. So right there and then, the LGA socket is just more expensive to manufacture. I understand pins on your processor looks weird. I don't care. My daughter has a Ryzen processor, and the thing is great. The thing is amazing. I love it. For $100, that is just a robust, beefy quad core with an APU on it. Wow, with an Vega APU on it at that. So, no, I would not get an Intel processor right now at all. If you would have asked me that 2 years ago, I was Intel all the way because AMD didn't have anything, okay? I do not play favorites with parts, but currently AMD just has the better value. They really do. Go AMD, everything. Just go AMD all the way. For graphics cards, Nvidia still is ruling the market. I do not like Nvidia in terms of their business practices, in terms of them lying to their customers, in terms of the GPP stuff that we heard about earlier this year, in terms of their kind of shady performance around Turing. I hope you know what I'm talking about. The Turing is very the Turing presentation was very, very shady. Same thing that happened with Pascal. Nvidia just likes to show you these arbitrary graphs of these things just keep stepping up, and they don't mean anything. They never have numbers behind them. You don't know what they mean. Is this level of performance? Is this number of transistors? Is this clock speed? Is this number of CUDA cores? You don't know. You know, is this teraflops? You don't know. You never know with Nvidia. So I really feel like the things that they do are really, really shitty, but I do recommend their graphics cards because they are the ones putting out the best stuff at the moment. If AMD were to get off their ass and change that, I would be singing a different tune. It'd be AMD all night and day. Okay. If you must know, I was raised on AMD processors. I do have a little bit of a I do like AMD more than I like Intel, but Intel has done a lot of shitty things in the past. Intel has exhibited a lot of anti-consumer behavior that I don't like. Plus, also, if you don't know, the reason why we've had quad cores for the last, decade is because AMD didn't have anything that could beat Intel's quad cores. They competed. AMD competed in Sandy Bridge. After Ivy Bridge came out, though, AMD didn't have anything. So from Ivy Bridge all the way up till Skylake, it was like quad cores. Oh no, Kaby Lake. Up until Kaby Lake, we had quad cores. You want another quad core? Oh look, the new Intel i7s are out. They're quad cores. More new i7s. Quad cores. Oh, do you want anything better than a quad core? You have to go up to an X99 platform where your processor is going to be minimum $380. Your motherboard is going to be somewhere around $200 or more. It's crazy. It's at least 50% more of the price for the X99 platform to have anything better than a quad core 3 years ago, which is really, you had to pay a premium. Excuse me, I need some water. Okay. I would not go with that. I would buy some some better looking RAM. I would buy some G-Skill. Oh jeez, I'm trying to forget it. It's RGB LED RAM. I'm trying to think of the name. I know it's G-Skill RAM, but I can't remember the name of what it is. I'd buy that, a single stick of just for a gaming rig, a single stick of DDR4, 16 gigabytes. You don't need dual channel for gaming. Ryzen only supports dual channel on the AM4 socket, so having 4 sticks of RAM isn't going to do you any better than having 2 sticks of RAM, except having a higher capacity. Power supply he picked, it's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Case, I don't care about the case either, because actually, if anybody ever comes to me to want to build a computer, I prefer that they pick the case, because then I don't. Taste is all about aesthetics, or the case is all about taste and aesthetics, and people have whatever they want. I particularly don't like cases with basements in them, but whatever. If you like a basement in a case, that's fine. A basement's just a little piece of metal that goes over your power supply and usually your drives. It tends to put the motherboard and graphics card on display, but I think that the power supply is a very important part, so I like to have my power supply included. Plus also the airflow gets into the power supply if it's included there too. If it's got an actual thing segregating it off, you really don't have a choice but to put your fan down. So if you want to put your fan up, you can put your fan up. If blah 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 blah. Anyway, motherboard. I've learned don't cheap out on your motherboard. I don't remember exactly which one he had. It's probably fine. Drive, not the Kingston SATA drive. I would go with the Samsung SSD and actually put the money into it. Again, PNY 1080. I'm an EVGA guy. I love EVGA. My microphone is sitting on my EVGA 980 box. I absolutely like them. But PNY is a great company. I have seen nothing but good things from PNY. I like pretty much all of them. ASUS is a very good brand. MSI is fairly good from what I hear. ASRock doesn't make GPUs, not yet anyway. I think they are. I think they're getting into it. Who else makes GPUs? I think there's one more. Gigabyte. I have had bad problems with Gigabyte motherboards. However, I think Gigabyte graphics cards are okay from what I understand. I haven't heard anything bad about a Gigabyte graphics card. However, I will recommend against Gigabyte motherboards. I probably won't ever use one as long as I live. So, that's my own personal thing. Your mileage may vary. I would rather go with an Asus board. The Asus board that I have has been working fine, rock solid for the last 10, 12 months, I don't know, and it's been great. Like Asus. Asus is good. Plus, also, this guy didn't go over one other thing, which is plugging in the front side header, which is things like the hard drive LED, the power switch, the speaker, all that sort of thing. My Asus board, and I know that other Asus boards, even the lower end one, not necessarily the higher end X99 platform, have come with a little adapter that you plug the case front side header pins into, and then you'll actually plug that into the motherboard, and it's really, really nice. It's a little caddy or a little carry. I'm not exactly what to. It's not really an adapter, so it's an adapter for lack of a better term, but it comes with a little nice thing that you plug you plug the things into, and then you plug it in. Usually it's kind of hard to plug those little things in. It's not impossible, but you may need small fingers in order to get that in. You don't need tweezers. I don't know why that guy even said tweezers. Again, I think he just misspoke. I don't know. There is so much wrong with this video. And my only conclusion for it is that it's a troll video. That this guy is just trolling. He either doesn't take his job seriously, doesn't. I mean, it's worked for The Verge. It's gotten The Verge a lot of attention. I don't know if it's necessarily positive attention, and I don't know why The Verge would want to tarnish their good name, I guess. But yeah, this video exists now. So, that was fun. That was only 50 minutes. Oh, joy. This is going to be fun to render. So, I'm going to go render this on my Hexacore i7 processor. That's right. We got one. Sorry. It's not special to have a Hexacore processor anymore, especially with the advent of AMD Ryzen. AMD's putting out hexa-core processors, 6-core processors for I think $170, which is not unreasonable. Very reasonable. So it's around the $200 mark. You can get a 6-core processor. It ain't no thing. It ain't no thing. It ain't no thing but a chicken wing. All right. So I hope that was good. I hope that was informative. If anybody out there has any PC hardware questions, even some software stuff, I can help you out with a little bit of software stuff. I don't know coding. I'm starting to learn a little bit, but I really don't know coding. I know hardware a lot better. So if you have any hardware questions, if you're looking to upgrade, you know what I think about the RTX graphics cards, they're not really worth it, except for the 2080 Ti. That's the only thing that looks any good. And if you're upgrading from somebody like me who's got two 980s, I don't think I'm actually going to upgrade yet. First generation ray tracing, I might wait till second generation when it's more perfected and they get more out of it. So I think that's my conclusion on that. But if you want to learn more, or if you want to ask me more specific questions, please do so in the comments. If you want to know what my dream PC build is, I will. I'll tell you that too. If you want to see what my computer is currently, go search my 500 subscriber video and look for my 500 subscriber thank you thing. I go over all the parts of my computer. I did a little shebang thing one day, and it took a lot of time to edit. And I'm really proud of it, and I think it shows off my computer fairly well. The motherboard is different. It's not a Gigabyte board. It's an Asus board, like I had mentioned previously. Thank you very much, everybody. This has been me covering the Verge's awful PC building troll video. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Click up here to watch the full episode for today's show. Click down here to watch yesterday's episode. I don't know what those are. Click down here, or down here, are where both of those links are. I've screwed this up. Click over here to subscribe to my wonderful, wonderful channel. Thank you. See you on Monday. My voice cracked, and go play some games.